Hey everybody, welcome to my channel and welcome to video number 13 of Video Every Day in June. Today we're going to be doing an E3 wrap-up, so this will be the last of the E3 videos. Also, obviously, I figured out a way to record even with my Wi-Fi down. It's not too complicated, but I'm going to have to go to other places with Wi-Fi and use cords to move things. Anyways, not important. Let's just get into the recap because this video is going to be really long if I don't move quickly. So, Day one was just EA, and EA was very boring. They had sports like always. They did talk about a new Star Wars game, a single-player one, but it wasn't like a trailer. It was like a dev in the crowd. It was weird. And then I wrote down so much talking because they did talk an awful lot. They showed a lot of Anthem. They talked even more about Anthem. But the two things that I thought were really interesting were Sea of Solitude and Unravel 2. Both indie games. Unravel 2 was the sequel to Unravel, and it came out the day that the conference was. And then Sea of Solitude, I don't know if they gave a release date or not, but it looks really interesting too. I liked the art style, and I liked the emotional core. They had the dev come out and talk about it, and she was really passionate about it, and that was great. But overall, EA was really boring, so I gave it a rating of 4 out of 10. Day 2, the first conference was Microsoft, and I have a huge list of everything Microsoft did. Microsoft did a lot this year. So, Microsoft had Halo Infinite. They gave a release window for Ori 2. They were the first company to show Fallout 76. They were the first company to show Captain Spirit. They showed Metro Exodus. They were the first company to show Kingdom Hearts 3. They showed Sea of Thieves expansions. They were the first company to do story for Battlefield 5. Battlefield 5 had already been shown at EA's conference. They showed Forza Horizon 4. They were the first company to show The Division 2. They were the first company to show Shadow of the Tomb Raider. They showed Devil May Cry 5. That was a new reveal. They showed Cuphead DLC. They showed Tunic. They showed Dying Light 2. They showed Just Cause 4. They announced Gears 5. And they announced Cyberpunk 2077 again. So as you see, there were a lot of things that other companies talked about, but there were also a lot of cool reveals. My favorites were Cyberpunk, Gears 5, which is funny because I don't even like Gears of War that much, and I remember when the Gears 4 trailer came out, I was like, this is super boring, this doesn't look interesting at all. But this trailer looked very bright and vibrant, which was different than what I saw of the previous game, but you know, I'll wait for ratings before I buy it, obviously. Devil May Cry was a funny reveal, and the dev came out, and he was like, I can't do a Japanese accent, I don't know, it's hard. Anyways, and they didn't talk much, which is something Microsoft usually is pretty bad about. They just showed a ton of games, they had a few people come out and talk to sort of pace it. Overall, very solid conference. I saw a lot of people complaining about the fact that they didn't show a lot of exclusives, and I'm gonna be honest, that doesn't change it. Like, that, whether or not the games are exclusive doesn't change how good the conference was. So people who rate about, like, compared to that are, I don't understand that. But also, they showed a lot of exclusive. Halo, Ori, Sea of Thieves, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I guess that's actually it. So they didn't show as many. I thought they showed more than that. I thought they showed like 15. They gave a list or something. Anyways, let's move on to the next conference. So the next conference was Bethesda. This is one that I saw a lot of people saying won E3, and I did not like that much. So first of all, Rage 2. The gameplay for Rage 2 looked great. The intro was a little bit awkward. They had that like rock band come in and do a song that I think it would have been fun as like just the straight up intro to the conference, but Pete Hines had already come out and talked. So he talked, and then they played the song, and then they showed the Rage 2 gameplay. I think if they had changed that order, it might have been better, but I thought it was really awkward the way they did it. But like I said, the gameplay for Rage 2 looked awesome. But then there was a big chunk of the Bethesda conference that was so boring. So they talked about Elder Scrolls Online, Elder Scrolls Legends, Quake Champions, Prey Update and DLC, which looked okay actually, Wolfenstein 2 DLC, Prey VR, Wolfenstein VR, Skyrim Alexa, which was funny. And then we got to Fallout 76, and Starfield, and Elder Scrolls 6. So those were all cool. Fallout 76 isn't my thing, but I'm sure some people will be really into it. Starfield is an announcement I've been waiting for ages. Elder Scrolls 6 was really disappointing because they showed nothing. They literally didn't even give us a title for Elder Scrolls 6. It was literally just Elder Scrolls 6, and that was it. So it's like, I don't know. They should have kept that in their pocket, because that game's not going to come out till like 2023 or anything. So They should have saved that announcement. Oh man. Anyways, the last conference was Devolver Digital that day. The last conference that day was Devolver Digital. And that conference looked, you know, it was okay. It wasn't as good as the last one. Obviously, it's supposed to be a comedy one, but I feel like they didn't have as much comedy in this one, and instead were just really heavy-handed with the like satire on the gaming industry, which was something that I thought was good. At the last year's was they were sort of equaled. It wasn't too heavy-handed, but it was very much there, and it was really funny. And this one, it was like no comedy and just so much satire. It was kind of annoying. Not as good as last year's. Still fun, I guess. Day 3 had Square Enix. They didn't show much. They showed Shadow of the Tomb Raider again, they showed Captain Spirit again, and they showed Kingdom Hearts 3 again. But it wasn't too long, so I gave it a rating of 6 out of 10. I forgot to give ratings for the other two. I'm not going to rate Devolver because it's not a real conference, so it's not like something I'm going to compare to the others. Microsoft, I gave an 8 out of 10 because super solid all around. Bethesda, I gave a 6 out of 10. I'm gonna bump my Square Enix rating down to a 5 out of 10 just because it was boring. But I like that it kept it real short, that they didn't drag it on. Like, they showed about as much as EA showed, but in like a quarter of the time. Then we had Ubisoft. Ubisoft was good. Here's why I said earlier that I think it would have been better if Bethesda had done the Rock Band intro at the start. And that's because Ubisoft started out with Just Dance 2019, and they had a big dancing opening, and that was awesome. I liked it a lot. It was tons of fun. I think it was because it was the true opener to the conference. But then they showed Beyond Good and Evil 2. Then, you know, Rainbow Six Siege. I found Ubisoft was very back and forth with cool stuff and then bad stuff again. Because after Rainbow Six Siege, then they did Trials Rising, which had a funny intro, the gameplay looked cool. And then they did The Division 2, which went on for way too long. Honestly, they spent so much time on The Division 2. And it's like, we know what it is. And they showed 2 cinematic trailers. It wasn't even like cinematic then gameplay. It was, anyways, bad part of the conference. Then they showed the Donkey Kong DLC for Mario plus Rabbids. That looked cool. They had music for it. They showed Skull and Bones. My personal favorite of this conference, they showed Transference, which is like a thriller. It doesn't look like it's quite horror. It looks like it's mystery thriller that kind of dips into the horror genre, but it's also going to be fully in VR if you have the headset for it. I'm very excited for that. And then they showed Starlink and For Honor and The Crew 2, none of which really interested me. But then they did Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and this is a game that I didn't expect to be excited for. I haven't been excited for Assassin's Creed in literal years, but the gameplay looked really good, and the art style looks fantastic. Really vibrant. I'm finding that really vibrant, saturated looking games are ones that grab me a lot better than other games. Then I give them a 7 out of 10, by the way. Not perfect, but good. And then Sony was the last conference of that day, and they were really disappointing. They showed in the first 35 minutes one game. One game took up 35 minutes of the conference. That was The Last of Us Part 2, because they moved venues. Like, they had everybody get into this little, like, I don't even know what it was. It was like a little room, and it was modeled like the room from the cinematic part of The Last of Us trailer. So that was, you know, maybe cool. But then it took them like 15 minutes to move from that venue to the main one. And, oh man, it was so weird. And, God. They didn't announce hardly anything. They announced Resident Evil 2 Remake, which was cool. They showed Control, which looked like an indie puzzle platformer, maybe a combat. I don't know much. They showed a cinematic for it, but it looks like the idea is that the level like moves around you. And they showed Trover Saves the Universe, which is a VR game from Justin Roiland, if you know who that is. They showed more Kingdom Hearts 3, and then finally the big 4. So they showed Last of Us 2, like I said. They also showed Ghost of Tsushima, which looks good. I said before that I was really excited about it. Still am. They showed Death Stranding, which I'm very excited for Death Stranding. I loved what I saw out of it. And they showed more Spider-Man. It's more of the same, you know, if you've seen the past Spider-Man trailers, they didn't really show anything new. They showed a lot of villains. But overall, I found it really disappointing. There weren't any huge reveals, and nobody came out and talked. Which, normally you would be like, oh, that's a good thing. They just really focused on the games. But I think that sometimes having the people come out and talk before the trailers, one, can help with the pacing. It can help, get people to stop thinking about what they've already seen and get ready for the next thing. And also, it means that they can hype up the announcement. Like, if they'd come out and really hyped up the RE2 announcement before the RE2 trailer, then it would have been crazy. Everybody would have gone nuts, but they didn't. And so when we got to Nintendo, everyone was hoping that they would go crazy, that they would show great things, and that they would be the saviors of E3. And they weren't. They had a solid conference, though. They started out with Daemon X Machina, which seemed like a mech game. I don't really know. They showed DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles. They showed a little bit of Pokemon Let's Go games. They announced Super Mario Party. They announced a new Fire Emblem game. They announced that Fortnite was coming on Switch, which is something that was leaked on 4chan before. They announced Overcooked 2, Octopath Traveler. I think they got a release date for it. And then they did like a montage of stuff. They announced Crash Bandicoot was going to be on Switch. I'm surprised I didn't see more people talking about that. Dark Souls Remastered on Switch, Wolfenstein 2 on Switch, and then finally they showed Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. The big announcement there was that it was going to have every single fighter in Smash Bros. History, which I'm pretty excited for. And they also announced that you can use a game controller with it for the Switch version of the game. I am very excited about that because I love the GameCube controller. Overall, I gave Nintendo a 7. Solid conference, but as you can see by my ratings, you can see that I think the loser was EA and the winner was Microsoft, and that's just because Microsoft was the only one that showed a lot of stuff that I was actually interested in. Nintendo didn't show much. Most of the things I just listed in Nintendo were really quick because it was like 20 minutes of that and then like 40 of Smash Brothers, and I was over it. I was over it by the end of the Smash Brothers trailer. Like I said, Bethesda and Ubisoft were the other ones that people were saying were winning. I think people don't want to say Microsoft won because people are still really against Xbox because of like how they've been over the past couple of years. But they had the best conference, honestly. Ubisoft had a lot of stuff that was really boring, even though they had stuff that I liked. Bethesda, same way, had a big chunk of really boring stuff, even though I did like the Starfield announcement, I liked the Rage 2 gameplay, I liked the Moon Crash DLC for Prey, actually looked kind of interesting. But Microsoft had, like, no lulls. Like, there was no part of the Microsoft conference that I found myself being like, okay, this is boring. So that's why I am saying Microsoft won. Overall, pretty disappointing E3. The fact that Microsoft won without really announcing anything big should tell you how boring it was. But, it wasn't the worst, I guess. Sony really fell from grace here, and I think we're seeing Sony arrogance come up. This happens every time that a console is like really dominant over a console generation. You saw it with Microsoft and Xbox. You remember when the Xbox One was announced and it was going to be like you had to be online every 24 hours or they would brick your machine, and you couldn't trade or rent or loan games to friends or anything because it was like tied to your console once you put it in, and all this stuff that was really annoying. And it was because Xbox had been so dominant, and then Sony came in and just trashed them, and then PS4 went on to dominate the generation. I think now that PS4 has been dominating it, you're starting to see Sony do some of this stuff. So like with putting very little effort into the conference, with the lack of crossplay on, everything, Rocket League, Fortnite, I think we're starting to see Sony is going to do that, and I'm hoping that Microsoft comes in and completely wrecks them, because we need both companies doing well. And Microsoft wrecking Sony will give them a reality check, and hopefully we'll actually get to see them both in sync doing things that are good for consumers and not just one dominating the market. Anyways, that's it. I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope you had a fun time with E3, even though I had a mad time. I hope y'all agree with my statements for all this stuff. I hope I don't start too many flame wars. Who am I kidding? No one's going to watch this. Anyways, I'll see y'all later for the next video. Bye.